What's going on, my St. Louis City fam? I'm your girl Kelly, here to give you the rundown on what happened in St. Louis City government this week, and here's what you need to know. So first, a bill appropriating $37 million in ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act coin, to support businesses and nonprofits on the north side was discussed as it was up for perfection. And if you feel like you've heard this before, yeah, y'all, it ain't deja vu. You have heard this mug before. Why? Because this bill has been discussed since like last summer. Yes, summertime. 2021, y'all. If you recall, the Board of E&A, which consists of the mayor, the comptroller, and the president of the Board of Aldermen, they've been going back and forth about this bill and the language. As I know, there were some concerns expressed about it not being in compliance with the feds, with how to spend the ARPA coin and yada, 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 all this other back and forth. But it appears to be moving forward because the board bill was before the full Board of Aldermen to make some of those suggested changes. So specifically, what were some of those suggested changes? So the first was to change the language to make sure the funds go directly to the Community Development Agency, or the CDA, and then from there, the CDA will transfer the coins to the St. Louis Development Corporation, or the SLDC, and then there's a requirement that there is some type of an signed agreement just to lay out the roles and responsibilities of each of those parties with regards to the managing of this coin. The next change, the city councilor will create an application for folks that want to apply to utilize these funds, because basically these are grants, y'all. And so these applications will be in digital and paper form, and they'll be available at the public libraries. Something else that was changed, there was mention of SLDC seeking community input when it is, quote, necessary and practical, their words. Something else that was really stressed, I guess, in the bill was that aldermanic approval of these projects is required for folks to get these coins. And then the next thing I really wanted to lift up with these tweaks made to the bill, so a maximum of $3.7 million, which is 10% of the total amount appropriated in this way, will go to support administration and compliance. So what do the other alder people have to say about this? So Alderwoman Ingracia, she expressed the need to ensure that the community has a say in how these projects are approved. And Alderwoman Wright, she expressed similar sentiments. And also she said, is there a way for folks, an alternative way for folks to be able to get these coins, even if they don't get the approval of the alderman in that ward? And so, y'all, listen to this clip. And this is Alderman Bosley expressing his thoughts on this matter.
The only reason these ARPA dollars are up for discussion is because of the distress that you put us through, because of the detriment that distress has caused our communities. My people are killing each other every day because of broken window theories and things we can actually go back analytically look at and say that the city could have done something about. You racially divided us. There are people alive right now who know what it feels like to be in this city and have a policeman watch him get beat down during the St. Louis Fairgrounds riot. But we not good enough. After going through all of these things and being representatives in these communities that used to be white, you all left this to us. We inherited these problems. And then we sent out representatives to help fix them. We don't go out here and knock on doors when we got 2 and 3 people on one block. Where your areas are, you got 10, 20, 30 neighbors on one block. We only hit 2 people on one block sometimes. And that's for 10 and 12 blocks. You're talking 20 or 30 people when you done walked over 2 or 3 miles in a small area. We don't have Wi-Fi. We don't have the ability to communicate with our folks the way that everybody else does. That's a reason why 10% was able to win this last this election, but I won't even go into that because that ain't germane to the topic. What is germane to it though Is our people not having voices and being voiceless. And those individuals that you put in place to be the voice of those people who are voiceless, who don't have the time or the resources to hear the voices of those individuals that are in opposition to what these people are trying to yield when it comes to trying to bring goods and services to their communities, bring and yield to their families. We're not out here running around shooting people and selling dope because we choose to. Ain't nobody's son out here getting shot and a mama clapping for him. But these 11 aldermen that you got are the front line for those individuals who are begging for change that we see on news every day, shaking our heads saying somebody should have done something about that. And if we are coming to you saying this is something that we need to do for the mental state of our people, for the physical state of our people, for the physical state of our city, the aldermen are the first line of defense for grass and trash and everything else. Why we cannot be the first line of defense when it comes down to helping develop the areas in our communities.
So what was the final verdict? The Board of Aldermen, they approved all of the changes, all of the recommended tweaks, and they also perfected the full bill. So yes, y'all, it appears this bill, it is moving along, heading towards final passage. The next thing you need to know, it got live, y'all, during a discussion about a bill that would appropriate $86.9 million of ARPA funding to make some needed capital improvement upgrades, including improvements to bridges as well as repaving of some of our streets, and we know that's needed. So this bill was hanging on the informal calendar for third reading during Thursday's Board of Aldermen meeting, and the sponsor, he moved it from there to the regular third reading calendar, which meant he trying to get this mug passed. So when it came up for third reading during the meeting, Alderwoman Tyre said, hell to the no on that. We need to make some changes to this mug, so we need to put this back on the perfection order of business. And she suspended the rules during the meeting, y'all. And I'm just saying, when these folks suspend the rules, you know something about to go down. So she got the votes and he just moved that mug back to the perfection order of business. So why did this bill need to be changed? So Alderwoman Tice expressed that some of these proposed funds and efforts, that energy, right, needed to be redirected to make some infrastructure improvements on the north side. So they started off discussing the first change regarding, again, redirecting the funds from the bridges to invest in North City. Alderwoman Ingracia, she was not checking for this at all because those dollars were matching funds needed to get federal coin to improve those jacked up bridges, specifically the Compton Bridge. She mentioned that the city will lose out on $16 million if that $7.6 million in ARPA contribution from the city is taken away. And then this exchange happened between Alderwoman Tyus and Alderwoman Ingracia.
And I think that it would be fair that although there are other bridges that need to be fixed, we already have the money set aside and we are obligated as a city to pay it, that we can have this discussion utilizing additional ARPA funds if there are other bridges that need to be fixed. And I think this is a dangerous last minute move that just doesn't make any sense in light of the amount of money, that's $16 million that we're going to lose if we don't have this $7.6 million in a local match. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the first.
Mr. President, members of the board, if the Alderwoman from the 6th would yield.
Alderwoman from the 6th will yield the question to the Alderwoman from the first.
I will.
Alderwoman from the first, please proceed.
Yes, Alderwoman, you said we're going to lose this money. When are we scheduled to lose this money? Do you know?
I don't know the exact date, but we obligated ourselves to pay the local matching fund to the federal.
And did you hear me say that we have other capital improvement monies coming along and we were going to just move it back to then? Did you hear that?
I don't think that makes any sense. I think that we should utilize the additional.
You didn't answer me. I don't want you to tell me about what makes sense. I asked, did you hear me? Because then I'm going to give you some more information that will make sense to you. Did you hear me say that we're going to move it back? That's what I asked you.
Yes, I've been listening.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me tell you something about need. I have had 5 Black people killed on Kings Highway because we don't have curbs. And it's way before these bridges happened, okay? This has been waiting and waiting and waiting. And so I told you I don't really want to get into this, and I'm tired now, about how much money has been spent in South St. Louis, downtown, and the Central Quarter. But I'll guarantee you it ain't nothing that you would be able to say if you looked at this. So I don't care what you think about this is a bad thing. I really don't. Okay, you're a little spoiled brat sometimes. That's how I feel about you. You don't have all
Point
the
of order.
things
This is
that you
an
will.
order,
I
Mr.
don't
Point of
care.
order.
I don't care.
Hold on for a second.
I
Hold
get
on.
tired of, you did not want to answer me. You want to
Alderman-
say something. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Oh, that's all right.
No, I take it back. But she didn't answer me. She didn't want to hear the rest of the question. And that's why I'm irritated, because 5 people have gotten killed on my neighborhood. You didn't ask about that. You think whatever we want is unimportant and only what you want is important, okay? You don't know about what the things. So how would you, again, I said I wasn't gonna bring this up. I promised the sponsor, I promised the president. I promise you, they're not saying this because out of the goodness of their heart, they just want to, or the meanness of their heart,
Point of order.
take money
Stop
away
the
from.
insults.
Alderwoman from the
Meeting.
11th.
Stop the insults at the Board of Aldermen. This is
You
all
be
people.
quiet. You stop the insult. She did not
Hold
even.
on for a second. Everybody hold for a second. Alderwoman from the 11th, please clearly state your point of order. Alderwoman from the 11th.
You can mute me, but you can't insult everyone else can insult people.
What,
This has to stop.
I
This is
asked
all
you to
public
please
speech.
state your point of order.
We should not be throwing insults. At the HUDZ meeting at O'Fallon Recplex, we had multiple members of the community say that that's what they see is us hurling insults at one another.
Woo. So what was the final verdict? I'm not gonna lie, y'all, between that drama popping off and then they just kept talking and talking and talking, I really kind of got lost in the sauce about what these specific changes were. But all in all, the changes redirected some of the funding to make infrastructure and street improvements in North City. So all the changes were approved, and the full bill, it was perfected. And I guess it will continue moving towards final passage. And the last thing you need to know, speaking of ARPA, there are not one but 2 efforts going on in ways in which St. Louis City residents can provide input on how the second installment of ARPA coin, which totals $250 million, how it should be spent. So again, I said there are 2 different efforts and 2 different ways to plug in because, we're the city of St. Louis. So we special. So we have all these different efforts going on. So the first effort, Mayor Jones has launched an online survey for you to, again, provide your input on how these dollars should be spent. I will be sure to provide the link somewhere on this post. Click it, fill it out. It really doesn't take that long. And then the second effort and the second way you can provide your input. So the Board of Aldermen's Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee meeting, they are facilitating these town halls throughout the city. So you can go and say what you got to say about it. So the next town hall will happen Saturday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. at St. Stephen's Church, which is located at 3949 Wilmington, and the zip code is 63116. If you have any questions about any of these efforts, feel free to hit us up at, you guessed it, 314-EVOLVE on all the social media platforms. And we are rounding it out with the legislative corner, y'all. So several bills were passed, but I wanted to lift a couple so folks were aware. So Board Bill 206 was passed, redirecting ARPA funding allocated to the police department. So $5 million of ARPA coin, it had been allocated to the police department for police overtime. Since it hasn't been spent, 2.5 of that $5 million will be redirected to provide additional cameras as well as other tech upgrades for the real-time crime center. And then lastly, but certainly not least, Board Bill 191 was passed, appropriating $450,000 to the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, which had been originally appropriated to the SLDC for maintenance of LRA properties. That's all I have for you this week. Please stay safe out there, and you will see me soon. Peace.